Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Ari and today we're doing my TBR game. So for those of you who are new here, my TBR game is basically I take this big old D20, I've got a board that you'll see here in just a second. I roll the D20, it comes up with a number, I pull the prompt off the board. That's it. 5 rolls. If I roll the same number twice in the month, I add an extra roll. At the end of that, I have 2 mugs back over behind here. I'm going to draw an audiobook and a series continuation from those mugs, add those, so a minimum of 7 books per month. Now, I have a very, very large stack of books that I would really like to or have to get to this month. So hopefully I'm not really adding anything new to the TBR. But before we get into those rolls, let's talk about last month's. Alright, last month's Dungeons of Books prompts. My first prompt was an ARC. For that I read The Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas. I did read this. I have a video out about it. Next prompt, I rolled a 1, so I got a Jar of Doompick and ended up getting The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I started this, which counts. This is a temporary DNF. I'm going to try to finish it later, but there was a scene in here that made me very uncomfortable. It was about a man raping his daughter, and I'm not in the headspace to read something like that right now. I'm not sure if I'm ever in the headspace to read something like that. But this is potentially continued, potentially DNF. Because the message of the book about racism is good. It was just that one scene that I couldn't handle. Prompt number 3 was an anthology or short story collection. I read another ARC for this, which was The Tao of Dritz. This is in that same video. I'll have it linked in the description box. Next up was an author with a middle initial. For that, I chose The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I did read this. Yay. And the final prompt was a series, so a book in a series. It could be a continuation, reread, start a new series, whatever. I read The Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know where my copy is, so I have to put a picture here. But yes, Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson. Next up is my series that I drew out of my jar. I ended up picking the Great Library series, which Paper and Fire was the book. I've started this. I still have a couple days left in the month, so I definitely will finish this, but it still counts because I started it. And the last thing was the audiobook. Now, I did not read The Dead Are Arising, but I do have a rule for the things that I draw out of the cup that I'm going to invoke. And if for some reason I can't read the series, or don't want to read the series or the audiobook that I draw, I can read 2 books, like 2 series continuations or 2 audiobooks to replace it. So I did read 2 audiobooks. I did read Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe, which is about OxyContin, like the family that created the pharmaceutical company that created OxyContin. Does that make sense? I also listened to Biased by Jennifer Eberhardt, and I also listened to I'm Glad My Mother's Dead by Jeanette McCurdy. That's her name. So 3 audiobooks this month instead of The Dead Are Arising, which is fine. All right, let's jump into those rolls. one. We're not starting out strong here because role number one was paperback. And in my entire stack of books, they're all either hardbacks or ebooks. Okay, starting strong. Let's find a paperback. So since it's October, spooky season, and I need to read a paperback, let's just read a horror. I've got Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is a paperback. It's nice and floppy. I love Grady Hendrix. I'll probably like this book. It's paperback. It's shorter. And it's kind of designed like an IKEA catalog about like a haunted IKEA-like store. So, book number one, Horror Store. Book number two, we got Pretty Cover. So this is a very subjective prompt. I can pick any book that I think is pretty. For this I went with The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. This is a short story collection based in the Daevabad universe from her Daevabad trilogy. Very pretty cover in my opinion. But this is what I'm going to be reading, and this is also one of my arcs for the month. Next prompt, fantasy. This is the kind of prompt that I like because I can do a lot with fantasy. For this, I'm going to be reading Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 3 in the Wax and Wayne series. Book 4 comes out in November. So reading book 3 or rereading book 3 in October. So I'm caught up on the series. This is the last book in my Mistborn reread. So I needed to read this anyway. Might as well put it in on fantasy. Roll number 4, we have Busy Cover. Is that even focusing? I'm gonna assume that's focusing, but I can't really tell. Anyway, busy cover, what does that mean? It just means there's a lot going on the cover. So I had the simplistic cover, which is you want the most basic, nothing on it cover as you can find, and this one, it has like a lot going on the cover. This is also up to interpretation. Is this the busiest cover book that I have? Probably not, but it does have a lot going on. I'm reading Babel by R.F. Kuang. I've heard nothing but good things about it, but if you could see on this cover, there's like a whole city here. There's a lot going on. It's all cross-hatching, which to me like adds extra like depth and dimension and busyness to the cover. There's nothing wrong with a busy cover, but this one I feel fits. So this is what I'm gonna read. And this was one of the books that I really wanted to read this month. And the last prompt is BOTM, which is Book of the Month. This is a subscription box that I subscribe to, so I just need to grab one of the books from that subscription box. And one of the books that I wanted to read this month was from that subscription box. And that is Kaiki. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right at all, but this is Vaishnavi Patel who wrote this. This is a fantasy about like a princess in India? I'm not sure. But I've heard nothing but good things about this book this year. I've been trying to find an excuse to read it, and here is my excuse. But now, let's draw. We're gonna start with series. This is the less overflowing jar. I updated this at the end of last month, so it should be good, ready to go. Let's see what I am torturing myself with this month. We're gonna go with this one. Please be a graphic novel. Oh. So this is Forgotten Realms. So any Forgotten Realms book is what I can read. Let's find something. Alright, for Forgotten Realms novel, I'm just going to continue where I left off with Dritz and read The Legacy, which is Legacy of the Drow, Book 1, or The Legend of Dritz, Book 7. But this is the next one in the series that I need to read. So this is what I'm going to read. I don't even remember where we are in the series, but it's pretty deep. Next, audiobooks. This one is a little bit overflowing. Okay, one just dive bombed out. So we'll get the one that dive bombed out and read this. This is Valhalla, which I don't remember what that's about, but let's look it up. Alright, so this is Valhalla by Nikki May. Basically, the quick description says it's Sex in the City, but following Anglo-Nigerian women instead of white women. So, hopefully it's interesting. I'm not going to really go past that in description, but this is the audiobook I'll be listening to. That is everything I need to read for my TBR, but just in case you want a little sneak peek of other things, I've got 3 other arcs that I'm going to be reading other than the one that I told you about. I also want to pick up Nana the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik, and Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr? I don't know how to pronounce this person's last name. So this is what the TBR looks like already, and this is just a physical TBR. There are a couple of books that I don't actually have that are also going on the TBR. Hopefully I find time to read a lot this month, because this is quite the stack I've got going on. So wish me luck. Let me know down in the comments below what's on your TBR this month, and if you don't have a TBR, you don't know what you're reading, leave me a bookish emoji. Something that you relate to books as an emoji. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!